Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another Kickstarter preview. And today, we're talking about Empire's End from Brotherwise Games, designed by John D. Clare with art by Kwanchai Maria. And I do apologize if I mispronounced any of those names. Now, before I get started, please make sure you turn your Klingon subtitles, because if I make any mistakes in the rules overview, that is where you will find the corrections. Additionally, I do need to point out that everything that you see here is still in the prototype phase and is subject to change. Now, let's talk briefly about what this game is and how it's going to work. In this game, each player has their own empire, and it is represented by these tiles down here, and as the name suggests, it is ending. You will be going through the game, dealing with disasters that are coming up, and by the time you get to the end of the game, whoever has managed to have their empire collapse the least horribly will be the winner. And that's going to be done through a series of kind of bidding and disaster selection is what I'm going to call it, and that'll make sense in just a minute. Now, if you're not interested in how this game is played and just want to jump into my final thoughts, then you would go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's talk about how this game is played. What's going to happen is this marker, this time tracker, is going to be moving down the board until you get to the end spot. And when you get to each one of these spots, something is going to happen where everybody's going to get to act. And so rather than try to just explain it, I'm just going to go through what would happen on these first couple of rounds here. So the first thing here is a disaster. And what happens on a disaster is you flip out one of these cards here, which in this case would be a blight. And I'll show you how it all works in a minute, but what's important is this number here is going to reference which part of your empire is going to be hurt. Right here, this is the resource that you're going to be able to use to avoid that particular disaster. In this case, it would be grain. Then down here, this is the power that you get if you wind up taking that disaster, and that'll make sense in just a few minutes. So now in this case, this one is affecting Space 11. And at the start of the game, everybody's going to have their city, their empire set up exactly the same, so you count from the left over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And so the road over here is what is at risk of being destroyed by this blight. And what will happen is the starting player, whoever has this token here, will get to decide first, do they want to take that disaster or do they want to pass it on? In this case, we'll say they're going to pass it on. Then the next player could pay a grain as well to pass it to the next player. And so on and so on. It'll go around and around the table until eventually someone's going to either not have any grain left. I'll point out that coins act as wilds in this instance. And they are going to take that disaster. Now, that sounds bad because the first thing that happens is the road flips over, it is now burning, and you don't get the points that are on the tile, which are 9. But whoever takes it gets all of these resources. So they take those resources as well, and each player has a little privacy screen right here that they would put all their stuff behind so no one knows what they have. And then in addition to that, you'll notice that it has this power on the bottom. And it's a little hard to see here because of the way my camera is set up, but what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to take that and slide it under one of these other tiles that's not burned out yet. And now that tile will have a second power that it can activate at a certain time, and I'll explain that in just a bit. And that's how all the disasters work. There are some, like here and here, that would give you 2 disasters, and you have to deal with both of those separately. Then we would move into the income phase. Income phase is very simple. All of your green powers would activate. So in this case, I would get a hammer, a grain, and an axe. Then I could take any of my grain and turn it into a hammer or an axe, and I could do that 2 times. So we'll just pretend I'm going to do that. I'll take this, turn that in, and get myself another axe, like so. Then I have these over here. What these do is these are going to recharge any single-use powers that you have on tiles to the left or to the right of it. In this case, there are none, but you'll see one of those in just a little bit. Then we'd go into another disaster phase, and another disaster phase. Then we would go into the industry phase. Now, the industry phase lets you activate your gray powers. So we have our city here, which lets you change 2 different tiles. So I'll just yoink, say I'm going to do that. And any powers you put on them would go with it. While these 2 let me purchase cards for cheaper. And now let's talk about that. That's the other thing that you're able to do during this phase is you're able to purchase cards. And each player has a hand of 4 cards. And so I have these 4 right here. And so there's some that are in-game scoring, which is in this case, you get 2 points for everything that's burning in your city. This one here is one of those powers that I mentioned, which comes with a cube on it. And whenever you want, you can discard that, and I could pass on a disaster that would need hammers to avoid, so I could just pull that and pass it on. But then you're going to have to wait until another phase when you activate this to then recharge it. Later on, these for every farm tile that you have next to this card, like so, you're going to get a grain every income phase. And this one would just be every income phase you get an axe. And there's a whole bunch of different things, but that covers the main types of cards that you're going to be able to get. So you're able to buy 2 of these cards. And you start with that discount that I mentioned, which means you would just get 2 of them for free. If those are destroyed for some reason, then each of them costs a hammer, and some cost extra hammers after that. The other thing you can do, though, is let's say I only want to buy this one, is you can take one and you can sell it. Take it, you toss it out of the game, and for that, you get a single coin. Then you have 2 more, which you're able to either keep or discard them both, and then you draw back up to 4 cards. Then from there, we'd have another disaster, and then we're going to move into the military phase, the battle phase, the war phase, whatever you want to call it. And for that, you're going to deal out 1 of these cards, and everyone's going to bid a certain amount of military power. Now, everyone starts the game with 4 based on these tiles here, though you can get various powers from the disasters that might give you more military power, but you're going to add up all of those, in which case, as I said, I would have, since I have 2 armies, I have 4 swords, but I'm also going to be able to bid as many axes or coins, again because coins are wild, as I want to increase that strength. So let's say I were to bid this 3 on top of my 4 that I already have, and everyone bids this simultaneously. Well, that would mean, since I got 4 or more, I get 4 points and 1 hammer. And if I happen to bid the most, in addition to that, I would get 3 more points and a gold. If I'd gotten my bid all the way up to 10, and I was the winner, I would get 15 points and 3 gold. You see how that works. Now, if I'd bid 2 or less, I would lose 3 points. And then whoever has the lowest score is going to go into upheaval, which in this case it says whatever your second highest value non-burning city is, moves to the 8th position. So in my case, the second highest value non-burning one is my town right here, so this would move to the 8th position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it would switch with the farm there, and now my empire is set up differently than everybody else's. And you're going to go through the game until you get all the way to the end, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game is going to be the winner. So that's pretty much how this game works. So what do I like about this game? First, I really like the simplicity of the game, but in that simplicity, you get to make delightfully hard choices. And the hard choices you're making are, you know you're going to have to let something burn. And letting something burn is bad, especially because you look at it and you see how many points you're losing. But if you can turn that burn into something that is going to benefit you more later, then you're doing really well. But it's really hard to make that choice. It is so hard to say, you know what? Yes, I'm going to let this city burn or this town burn, lose 20 points. And I'm going to let it burn for 20 points because I'm going to get something that, if I get it in the right place, will get me 8 points 3 times later in the game. So the choices are so hard, but it's so easy to understand, and that I really like. Along with that, in the same vein, the passing of the disasters around is just delightful because invariably, especially towards the end of the game, you start sending stuff around the table, and you see those moments where that choice of, is it worth it to me to just take all of this stuff and burn something that maybe I didn't want to burn, but I get all this stuff and I can do something? You start seeing people really struggle with that choice, and it is just delightful watching people go through that and going through that yourself. So I really like, I guess, the core mechanic of the game, right? But along with that, the other thing that I find so exceedingly clever are the multi-use cards. Those disasters, it sucks. Always, it sucks, whatever you're going to get. But sometimes those powers, even just the power you can get by sliding that card under, is just so good and so fits the thing that you're building that, again, you have that exceedingly hard choice of what are you going to do. And then along with that, you are able to, a couple times a game, buy some powers and put them out, or just sell them for coins. And it's just so simple, but it works so well. So really what you're hearing is, I like all of the mechanics of the game, how everything kind of goes together, how it's simple. it's just fun. There's an incredible tension to this game as you play. Just incredible tension all the way through, and it's just fantastic. You're constantly making choices. You make your choice, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done the other thing. It's great. So, what are my quibbles with the game? Well, the first one is, it's a very tense game, like I'm just saying, and that just really might not be something that you like. I can absolutely see people getting intensely stressed out by these choices. I know people, I play games with people that would just stress, and that might not be what you're looking for. The next thing I'll say is some of the people I've played with, and to be fair, this is not something that I felt personally, but it might be I'm lucky, or it might be it's just a personality thing. Some of the people I played with just felt trapped when they were constantly having to deal with the person next to them. For whatever reason, they just felt like the plan that the person who was acting before them every time just really conflicted with their plan, and they just felt like they were getting hosed over and over and over again. Now, that's not something that I felt, but they were very passionate about feeling this way, which tells me that there are going to be other people that feel that way as well. So that just might mean that this is not the type of game for you, but something to consider. But really, that's it. I don't have many quibbles for this game because I think this game is really doing exactly what it sets out to do. And I think it's doing it in a way that's pretty darn streamlined. I think it's doing it in a way that is constantly a challenge when you're playing. And if you are looking for this kind of game, this secret information, this bidding, this kind of passing the thing on, the game that people have referenced a lot is the game No Thanks as they're playing this. If you like that style of game, then this one's pretty darn fun. And it's not a big box. I don't know what the price point is going to be, but it can't be that much because there's just not a ton of components in here. All you have are some cards with nice art on them. Yeah, but still, just cards. Some tokens, some punch board, a couple little pieces. So it's a pretty small box game with a lot of game in there. So there you have it, folks. That is Empire's End. As I said at Origins, I was very excited about it, and I happened to get my hands on it to do this preview, and I'm still excited about it. The game has lived up to my expectations. All in all, I'm pretty darn excited about this game coming to crowdfunding and getting to play the final version whenever that happens to come out. So there you have it, folks. That is Empire's End. As always, if I made any mistakes in the rules overview, please let me know in the comments with the timestamp so I can get that into the Klingon subtitles. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.